Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. And this time we're tackling a classic, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Yeah, a book that really, I think, captured the zeitgeist when it first came out.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm,
It was everywhere.
yeah.
And still, you hear those phrases pop up, oh, he's just retreating to his cave, where
Yeah.
she's just riding an emotional wave.
It's become part of our cultural lexicon, hasn't it?
It really has. So, for those who maybe haven't read the book or need a refresher, what's this whole Mars-Venus thing all about?
Well, the core idea is pretty simple. It uses this metaphor, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, to illustrate the fundamental differences in how men and women think, feel, and communicate.
Right, like we're literally from different planets.
Exactly. And, while it sounds kind of funny, and it is, the book actually digs deep into the psychological and societal roots of these differences.
So it's not just about, stereotypes or oversimplification.
No, not at all. It's
Okay.
about understanding why we sometimes feel like we're speaking completely different languages.
Which can be incredibly frustrating in relationships.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're not aware of these inherent differences.
Well, let's break it down. Let's start with the guys. What are some of those key Martian needs that the book highlights?
Well, one of the biggest ones is the need to solve problems.
Ah, yes. The classic Mr. Fix-It syndrome.
Exactly. Men are often wired to jump into solution mode, especially when a woman is sharing her feelings.
And that could be a recipe for disaster, right?
Oh, yeah, because many times a woman just wants to be heard, to have her feelings validated, not necessarily fixed.
It's like that classic scenario. She's upset about something at work, and he immediately starts offering advice or suggesting ways to solve the problem,
When really all she wants is for him to listen and empathize.
to just be there with her in that moment.
Precisely. And the book gives a great example of this. John Gray talks about how he used to be a fair-weather friend to his wife Bonnie.
Oh, I remember that part.
He only wanted to be around her when she was happy and upbeat, but when she was struggling, he'd retreat because he didn't know how to handle those negative emotions.
It's like he was afraid of those dark clouds.
Yeah, and that's another key Martian trait, the tendency to withdraw when things get tough.
The cave retreat.
Exactly. Men often need to go to their caves to process their emotions internally, to find solutions on their own.
And this can be so confusing for women, right? Because it can feel like rejection.
It absolutely can. But it's important to remember that it's not personal.
It's not that he doesn't care.
Right, it's just his way of coping, his way of dealing with stress.
So what's the best approach when a guy goes into his cave?
Give him space. Let him recharge. Don't try to pry him out or bombard him with questions.
Because that's just going to make him retreat further.
Exactly. And the book actually offers some helpful advice for men in this situation. It suggests using those 4 magic words. I will be back.
Oh, that's good. It reassures her that he's not abandoning the relationship.
Right, it's just taking a temporary timeout.
So we've talked about problem solving and cave retreats. What are some other core Martian needs?
Well, another big one is the need for trust and approval.
To feel competent and capable.
Exactly. Men have this deep-seated fear of feeling inadequate, like they're not good enough.
And this goes back to that whole societal conditioning thing, right? Like men are supposed to be the strong ones, the providers, the problem solvers.
Absolutely. And the book illustrates this with a great analogy, the knight in shining armor.
Oh yeah, he'd much rather use his sword to slay a dragon.
Then be handed a noose by the princess.
It's because that would make him feel helpless, like
Yeah.
he's not capable of saving himself.
Precisely. So ladies, when your guy is acting all Mr. Fix-It or retreating to his cave, keep this in mind.
It might just be his way of trying to feel worthy and capable.
It's not about you. It's about those deep-seated needs and fears that he might not even be aware of.
Wow. This is giving me a whole new perspective on things.
It's about understanding those underlying motivations, those Martian instincts that drive his behavior.
And once we understand those, we can start to communicate more effectively, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we'll be diving into next time. Those Venusian needs and how they differ from their Martian counterparts.
Stay tuned. Things are about to get really interesting.
Welcome back. All right, so we've explored the Martian landscape. Now let's venture over to Venus, shall we?
Yes. Let's uncover those Venusian mysteries. And, it's funny, thinking back to that home improvement committee concept,
Oh, yeah.
it's like, now that we understand the male need to feel competent, the female side of this dynamic makes so much more sense.
It does, doesn't it? It's like we're not trying to nag or control. We just see
Well,
potential.
and we want to help them reach that potential.
Right, exactly. But as the book points out, even the most well-intentioned suggestions can come across as criticism.
Especially to those sensitive Martian egos.
Right, because it can trigger that fear of incompetence, that feeling of not being good enough.
So it's like we're coming from a place of love and wanting to help,
Yeah,
but it can be misinterpreted.
absolutely. And that's where those communication breakdowns happen.
So how do we navigate this? How do we offer support without triggering those Martian defense mechanisms?
Well, first, it's crucial to understand that women are often wired to nurture and improve their surroundings.
It's in our DNA.
Right. And sometimes that extends to our partners.
It's like we want to create this harmonious environment, and that includes helping our partners be the best versions of themselves.
But the key is to do it in a way that feels supportive.
Yeah.
Not critical.
So how do we do that? Give me some tips.
Well, instead of offering unsolicited advice, try asking questions like, is there anything I can do to help? Or would you like to brainstorm some ideas together?
That way, he feels like he's part of the solution, not the problem.
Exactly. And it shows that you respect his autonomy, his ability to figure things out on his own.
Which is so important for those Martians.
Absolutely. Now, another key Venusian trait that the book highlights is the whole concept of emotional waves.
Oh yeah, this one's been a game changer for me. It's like finally an explanation for all those ups and downs.
It's so validating, isn't it, to know that it's not just you, it's biology.
Totally. So for those who haven't read the book, can you explain this a bit more?
Sure. The book compares women's emotions to waves with their natural ebb and flow.
And those waves can be influenced by all sorts of things. Hormones, stress life events.
Exactly. And instead of trying to fix those waves or getting swept away by them, the key is to ride them out together.
To be that steady anchor, that safe harbor.
Precisely. And for the guys, this means resisting that urge to jump into problem-solving mode.
Because sometimes a woman just needs to vent,
Yeah.
to express those feelings without judgment.
Right. And just listening without offering solutions can be the most supportive thing you can do.
It's like you're saying, I'm here for you, I'm listening, I understand.
And that validation, that feeling of being heard is so crucial for women.
It's like it calms those emotional waves. It creates this sense of safety and connection.
Exactly. And it allows her to process those feelings and move through them.
So it's less about fixing and more about simply being present.
Absolutely. And speaking of being present, let's talk about another core Venusian need, the need to feel cherished and validated.
Ooh, this is a big one.
It is. And it goes beyond simply feeling loved. It's about feeling seen, appreciated, and valued for who you are.
Not just for what you do.
Right. And the book has this amazing line, a woman's tendency to be compulsive relaxes as she remembers that she is worthy of love. She doesn't have to earn it.
It's like a permission slip to just be ourselves.
Exactly. And to let go of that constant need to prove ourselves, to earn those gold stars.
Because we're already worthy, just as we are.
Precisely. And when a woman feels cherished, when she feels that deep sense of appreciation, that's when she can truly relax and open up.
It's like those walls come down, and she can be her most authentic self.
And for the guys, this doesn't have to be complicated. It's about those small, consistent acts of appreciation.
Bringing flowers,
Yeah.
making dinner, offering a back rub.
Those little things that say, I see you, I value you, I cherish you.
It's about speaking her love language.
And ladies, don't be afraid to communicate those needs. Let your partner know what makes you feel cherished.
Because those Martians bless their hearts. They're not mind readers.
They're not. So speak up. Let them know what makes you feel loved and appreciated.
This is all about learning to speak each other's language, isn't it?
It is. And the book offers so many practical tips on how to do that.
Like understanding those subtle nuances in communication.
For example, women often express upset feelings indirectly, perhaps through rhetorical questions or hints.
While men tend to be more direct.
Right. And it's not about manipulation. It's just different ways of expressing needs and seeking reassurance.
So it's like we're both trying to get to the same destination, but using completely different maps.
Exactly. And speaking of maps, let's talk about scoring points in relationships.
Ooh, this is a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
I've definitely made some mistakes in this department.
We all have. The book highlights how men and women have completely different scoring systems.
Like different currencies.
Exactly. Men often go for those big grand gestures, thinking they're racking up major points.
While women tend to value those smaller everyday acts of love and consideration.
It's like men are playing basketball, aiming for those slam dunks.
And women are playing a more subtle game, like those intricate points in a gymnastics routine.
That's a great analogy. It's not about the size of the gesture. It's about the consistency and thoughtfulness behind it. And for the women, Those small gestures, bringing flowers, offering a back rub, making dinner, they all add up.
It shows that you're paying attention, that
Yeah.
you care about her needs and well-being.
And for the men, they score points by feeling trusted and appreciated for their efforts.
That feeling of being the capable, respected partner.
Exactly. So guys, instead of racking your brains for that grand romantic gesture, focus on those everyday acts of service and appreciation.
And ladies, make sure to express your gratitude for those efforts. Let your partner know how much you value his contributions.
It's about recognizing those subtle differences, those seemingly small things that can make a huge difference.
It's about fine-tuning those relationship antennas.
And it's important to remember that these scoring systems aren't static. They can evolve.
It's like leveling up in a video game.
Exactly. As the relationship deepens, the challenges become more complex, and the focus shifts from those external gestures to a deeper understanding of each other's emotional needs.
And that's where things can get really tricky, especially when it comes to communicating those difficult feelings.
Those moments when past hurts or insecurities bubble up to the surface.
And the book offers some great tools for navigating these situations, like the love letter technique.
Yes, that's a powerful one. It's a way to communicate those deeper, more vulnerable feelings in a way that minimizes defensiveness.
I'm really intrigued by this technique.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through how it works? So walk us through this love letter technique. How does it work?
Well, it's pretty simple, actually. The idea is to take some time, maybe an hour or two, to sit down and write a letter to your partner, expressing those difficult feelings you've been holding back.
Like what kind of feelings?
Anything that's been weighing on you, anger, resentment, sadness, fear, even regret.
So it's like a free flow of emotions, getting it all out on paper.
Exactly. And the key here is to write it as if your partner isn't going to read it.
Oh, that's interesting. Why?
Because it allows you to be completely honest and vulnerable without the fear of hurting or upsetting them.
That makes sense. It
Yeah.
takes the pressure off.
Right. You can really let those raw, unfiltered emotions pour out onto the page.
So what do you do with the letter once you've written it?
Well, the book suggests setting it aside for a day or two and then rereading it with fresh eyes.
So you can gain some perspective.
Exactly. You're not so caught up in the emotion of the moment. You can see those feelings with more objectivity.
And maybe even gain some insights into why you're feeling that way.
Right. And once you've had that chance to process your own emotions, you can decide if you want to share the letter with your partner.
So it's not about using the letter as a weapon.
No, not at all. It's about fostering understanding, both within yourself and in the relationship.
I can see how this could be incredibly powerful, especially when you're dealing with those deep-seated resentments or past hurts.
And even if you choose not to share the letter, the act of writing it can be incredibly cathartic.
It's like that saying, a burden shared is a burden halved.
Exactly. Even if you don't physically share the letter, you're still releasing that emotional weight.
So it's like a form of self-therapy.
In a way, yes. And it's important to remember that communication is a two-way street.
So just as we need to express our feelings, we also need to be receptive to hearing our partner's perspective.
Absolutely. It's about creating that safe space for open and honest dialogue, where both partners feel heard and respected.
It's like building a bridge across that Mars-Venus divide.
One conversation at a time.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive into men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
It's a classic for a reason.
It really is. And it's given me so much to think about in terms of my own relationships.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, relationships are a constant work in progress.
There will be times when we feel deeply connected and other
Yeah.
times when we feel like we're from different planets.
And that's okay. It's all part of the journey.
The book talks about the seasons of love.
Right? Yes. It's a beautiful analogy. Just like nature has its seasons, so do relationships.
There's spring with its new beginnings, summer with its passionate intensity, autumn with its harvest of shared experiences, and winter with its time for introspection.
And each season has its own unique beauty and challenges.
It's about embracing those cycles, understanding that relationships aren't always about fireworks and grand gestures.
Sometimes it's about weathering those storms together, navigating those quieter periods, and emerging with a deeper appreciation for the love that binds you.
And it's about remembering that we're both on the same team.
We're in this together, navigating those Martian and Venusian terrains, learning each other's languages, and celebrating those moments when we truly connect.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Just this, understanding is the foundation of any successful relationship. When you take the time to understand those fundamental differences between men and women, those seemingly baffling behaviors suddenly make
It's
sense.
like having that Rosetta Stone for decoding those Martian and Venusian messages.
Exactly. And that understanding is what allows us to communicate more effectively, to meet each other's needs, and to build a love that can weather any storm.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. We hope you've gained some valuable insights. And remember, love is a verb, it's an action, a choice we make each and every day to understand, to cherish, and to nurture the relationships that bring meaning to our lives. Until next time, keep exploring those Martian and Venusian landscapes. And remember, we're all in this together.